Hi everybody, and welcome back to the studio. Today is part 2 of the Throne of Eldraine art evaluation, I guess that's what we can call it, that we're doing today on the channel. So Throne of Eldraine is an expansion for Magic the Gathering. I just got into this game not too long ago. I like playing it, it's quite fun, and the art on the cards is very beautiful. So what we're doing today is we are doing part 2 of a 25 booster pack opening, where we're going to be looking at the art in the cards and evaluating just that. I'm not going to be talking about the game, because even though I know how to play the game, I'm certainly not an expert. It's a really deep game. So I'm just going to be talking about the art. And let's start with our first pack of part 2. And for those who are just tuning in, this is based off of loosely based off of Grimm fairy tales and King Arthur kind of things. So the first one we got is Lash of Thorns. So the thorns are sort of symbolic of the wild. And I guess in the last video we kind of figured out that these are rose thorns that have something going on with them. And this person is lashing out at you with these thorns. Very evil character. The expression on the face is pretty mean, sadistic. There's not too much going on in the background, but I do appreciate the silhouettes of the people there. Makes it look like they're watching it. And overall, it's kind of good. Actually, this one, I like the cartoon kind of style that it has going on with it. More like a modern day comic book than the ultra realistic. It's quite nice. Refreshing, actually, sometimes. The next one we've already taken a look at. So, in fact, this one and this one we've already taken a look at. And this one we've already taken a look at in part 1. So, that's why we're going to go quick on this one. And this one is new. Covetous Urge. There's some kind of magic coming out of this guy to steal this crown here. The hands are the main focal point, and they're very well done. I always say if you want to evaluate an artist, just look at how they draw hands. A lot of artists struggle with hands, and if they're either, out of proportion or they're hiding the hands or something, that tells you the artist might not be comfortable drawing hands. This is really good. These hands are very, very nice. I like the smoky effect they have going on here, coming from the man in the background. Maybe the crown could look a little more golden, a little bit more shiny. And the way you accomplish that is with more contrast. So brighter spots, but right next to darker spots on the crown. This is all somewhat mid-tone yellow. It could be made to look a little more shiny. And this is Linden, the Steadfast Queen. And she looks great. I like her sword. The costuming is very detailed. White and gold, which is sort of what you expect from, a white character. Sort of look holy, heavenly kind of thing. And it's very, very nice. I like the light source. This big ring around her neck is interesting costuming. And she's sort of holding herself upright. I was saying in the last video, if you want to make somebody look heavenly or regal, just make their posture much more straighter than it really is. And now that I mentioned that, you all just straightened up your own spines a little bit, including me. Next pack. Out Muscle, Brock Lesnar made it into a card. So here's Brock Lesnar, the reigning, defending champion, and he's taking this bear to Suplex City. I like this one a lot. It's quite unrealistic that he would be able to wrap his arms around the bear. It kind of actually works. The bear is getting squeezed. You can see this sort of bulge happening in the lower part, which would happen from squeezing the bear. And it's quite a hard suplex in that it's causing the ground to crack, and the crack is coming towards us. If I may be so bold, I would say maybe shift the action a little bit more so that the crack is going more head on to us, and it looks more like Brock is suplexing the bear into us. But other than that, it's pretty good. Maybe a little bit more on the background, but I think The main focus is really supposed to be on this German suplex. Redcap Raiders, we already took a look at it. Rimrock Knight. This is a dwarf knight running from some kind of an avalanche, I guess. And he's quite cartoonish. I like the way he is. Yeah, see, the way he's sort of running out towards us is how I want the suplex to go. His expression is pretty cool. He looks like he's saying, charge. Is that his arm in the background? Yeah, it is. We saw a card like this last time where they're trying to do the foreshortening, so like the arm is coming really close and the other arm's really far back. But even in the other one, they make the back arm so small that it actually doesn't, like, it looks like a child's arm. It's a bit strange. I like the mountains and the stuff in the background. By the way, I should probably say this now. I feel like I'm being too critical of these things. I think the art in all these is very good. Certainly a lot of them are much better than anything I could accomplish. I'm just saying like what I see. And of course, art is 100% subjective. I might like something here and you might dislike it, or I might dislike something here and you might like it. Art is purely subjective. We make it off of our own knowledge and expressions and feelings and our own experiences. And so, like, I am not by any means right. These are just what I think. We got this spore cap spider here. It's really cool. It reminds me a bit of the Pokemon Paris in that it's an insect with a bunch of parasitic fungi on it. But the level of detail this person went into is insane. These mushrooms, different sizes, and there's just so many of them. Like, and they're so small, but I can see every individual one. This must have been like very labor intensive for this person to do. And then you still have like little splashes of green in the background, which shows sort of like, growth and things like that. It's very, very nice. Beloved Princess. So the thing about this one is, I said I wasn't going to talk too much about the game, and I'm not. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad, but it says, Beloved Princess can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. So here she is. She's literally walking on this great big dragon lizard to show, I guess he'd be a salamander, to show that, he can't block her, but yet you got this little fairy hiding behind the tree who's going to get her because that would have less power than 3. And a nice contrast here. The princess is quite white. She has that nice Victorian sort of color. We've been noticing a lot of these Victorian reds and blues and greens used in the art. And it's quite light and bright here, but the contrast with that dark tree and the fairy hiding behind the tree with the knife is very, very good art and storytelling. And we have some other like light fireflies here that she's maybe following. So maybe she's not even paying attention to what's around her. Yeah, she's not paying attention to what's around her. She probably doesn't even know she's walking on that salamander. Next, Sorcerer's Broom. Oh, this is pretty cool. So we got our brooms here, and they're all split to look like they have that. It's sort of like memoriscent. Is that the right word? Evocative of Fantasia, and where Mickey Mouse turns the brooms into life. And I like how not only do you have these obvious light sources filling in for the eyes of the broom, but you also have this netting that goes across the broom, serving almost as the mouth. And it almost looks like they're dancing or something. There's like one long finger on this guy. It almost looks like a conductor's wand. And they all have different expressions on each one. This one's clearly quite angry in the background. And they're dancing around. The archway and the architecture in the back is very nice. And I also like that they bothered to put some highlight onto the mouth here on this side where it's really bright and allowed it to get darker, because that's probably what would happen with that material in real life. Sir Kara the Bold. Very good angle here. You're looking at her up, so she looks powerful. Lots of detail in her costume, the gauntlets. There's an under part with leather. There's, 2 different bands of metal here. Chainmail with, shoulder pads, and then an emblem here. the different buckles, the weapon. There's a lot of detail that's going into her costuming. And again, you get that same sort of pure red in Victorian art. And the architecture here in the back is pretty good. I think we've seen this building before in one of the earlier ones where the people were rushing off into the to the volcano. It was some sort of a game, I think. So it's all quite nice. And I do actually appreciate the consistency between the different cards, even though different artists have been working on them. And my rare is the Stone Coil Serpent. So we have this giant rock snake, Onyx from Pokemon, looking down at this mage that I guess awoke it. And you can see that it's sort of imbued with this green magic. And there's some sort of a thing, rune on the ground here. So like the ritual has to be performed here maybe to raise the snake. And the trees in the background are growing, but they're growing in such a way that they're growing out and away from the snake, and it sort of draws your eye in. There's actually quite a lot of symmetry in this one as well, symmetry being quite beautiful, where everything's sort of like right down the middle, and that helps, again, draw your eye to not only the snake, but the smaller person who conjured it. Doopy-doopy-doo. Dwarven Mine, I like this one. I like the brightness of the red. I like that there's contrast between this dark. A lot of these cards are using this light smoky stuff to create their white or their light, and then contrasting it against black. And I think I'm going to have to try that in some of my own things, because it seems quite effective and quite easy to do as well. And what I like about this one is you can actually follow the trail all the way from these jewels that they're mining all the way up here and into the entrance of the mine. So it's really, really cool. I'm a little bit less a fan of the token creature that it creates, because for two reasons. I don't think there's very much going on in the background here. I mean, it's supposed to symbolize that he's underground and stuff like that. I think the character that they drew is very nice, and with the lamp. But it reminds me way too much about Lemmy Winks from South Park. And if you know what I'm talking about, great. The less of it said, the better. But the Lemmy Winks token creature is not so hot for me. The Golden Egg, just in time for Easter, Halloween. It's pretty good. You got some real eggs here. The basket looks great. Lots of details. You got clovers mixed in with the grass and some flowers, like you would actually get, right? Grass isn't just grass. There's other things in there. And then you got the big golden egg. And it does look really golden, in fact. Like the gold effect is really well done on this one. They added extra sparkles for emphasis. And it's quite dark, too. You do notice, like, they did darken the areas of the basket near the golden egg to highlight the contrast of it. I'm just not a huge fan of the texture on it. I mean, I can't imagine a golden egg being laid, let alone one with like texture on it. So I don't know. You can suspend my imagination a little bit, but not that much. The Ginger Brute. The less said about him, again, the better. Sort of in the same vein as Lemmy Winks here. Oh, he's winking. Yeah, and the wife is horrified. Go back to part 1 and see what I'm talking about. Links in the description, I guess. Eye Collector, this one's good. This one's excellent. See, this is a good case of foreshortening. So here's the arm in the foreground, and it's attached to the weapon, and this is all coming towards you like this. But look at the back arm. The back arm is not small and childish. It actually is in proportion to the character, and the expression on this face is very well done. These wings are ragged. We're in a swamp. It's a dark card. You got this eye, the Eye Collector, and that's an awful thing to think about. This thing just goes around collecting things as eyes. This looks like it came from a frog, which again is also imaginative too, because it's not a human eye, which is what you would immediately do. The detail in the background is very good. There's this tree here in the upper right hand corner. I can see individual branches, but it's not so distinct, so it is pushed back. There's a good use of color too. There's also purple mixed into the water, which really just helps it from being too drab. The blade is really sharp, and you got this big branch here, again making it dark, and again sort of dividing it. This branch is dividing the scene between the fairy and the knife and the eye that she has collected. It's very effective art. This one we've already checked out. Steel Claw Lance. Is he getting hit by it, or is he wielding it? He's wielding it, I think. It's very nice. I like the details on the shield, the two faces and stuff. Again, repeated on his, actually repeated throughout. It's on his shield, it's on his horse's helmet, it's on his helmet. But this weapon is not at all effective. I kind of like weapons. Like I check out other YouTube channels like Shadowversity and things like that. And the idea of this lance is that it looks like it disperses force rather than concentrating force, which is not what you want for a lance. I think if he were to be hit by someone using a sharper lance, concentrate at one point, he would lose. And the background's okay. There's not much going on back there, but I do like the detail in his costuming, and I do like the banner and the consistency throughout. Alright, Outlaws Merriment. We got a big party. Oh, look how happy that guy is. And that girl. Oh, wow, all of them. They're just toggling through. Alright, let's take a look at them. They're not going to give me enough chance to talk. I like him. I want to have a drink with him. She seems okay. He seems okay. I like this guy. He's like, here, drink this with me. I said, okay, we'll do that. She's pretty cute. I like her figure. Yeah, I think this is all pretty good, and it looks like they're just having a good party out there. And the characters from the tokens are there. He's there, she's there, and this guy is there having a drink. So yeah, it's not bad. Background, yeah, it's good. You can get a sense that they're sort of gathered around. Yeah. Next up. Alright, we checked this out, we haven't checked this out. Lochwine Paladin, some kind of a hero character, leaving these thorns bushes, so leaving the wilds. Sort of the story going on here is that there are the wilds and they're where all the non-humans live, and then there's where all the humans live, and neither group is getting along very well. The horse is really detailed. I like the armor on him. I like the use of purple as an accent color, especially on a black mana card, which is supposed to be evil. And I do like the roses sort of growing forth from here, because I think there's another card that sort of almost shows that, like I said, these thorn bushes are supposed to be like dead or dying rose bushes that are not enchanted or something. So I wonder if he's not finished doing something that revives these thorns. Everything's really seems in proportion, lots of detail in there, and I like how you can see the thorns and the roses. We took a look at this one, right, and the little path that she follows all the way. We took a look at this guy here. Let me see. I want to talk about Loch Dragon first. I like that, there's a sense of action by tilting the dragon, but I don't like the way the wings are constructed at all. If you look at, basically any animal that has wings, wings are basically just modified arms and hands, typically with elongated fingers, like, for example, like a bat, and then you have skin or webbing between the fingers, and that's what sort of forms the wing. In this case, you basically have what would be the equivalent of like the humerus, and then just a single forearm bone. We usually have two. We have a radius and we have an ulna. Just a single bone here. But then like these bones are coming just off at just completely odd angles. I'm not a fan of the anatomy of this one. I mean, obviously, like, I like the creative I like it to be creative but grounded in reality, if that makes any kind of sense. Maybe a few references of other winged creatures might have helped out a bit for this one. I do like the horns, like that's creative. I like the neck thing on it, but that just kind of really ruins it for me. It looks a bit childish. Then Sir Conrad the Grim. So this is the Sir card for the dark deck. Again, purple is the nice accent color. He has a lantern, but it almost looks like a creepy head, which is really good, like, detail. The horse is reared back bucking, but it's like a misty dark forest, which is really, like, this just all sort of emphasizes, like, that this is a dark, evil kind of thing. And maybe that this guy's not to be trusted, because the light from this is really what's lighting up his face, but everything else is dark. So again, the lighting is sort of emphasizing him. Yeah, he seems like the kind of guy that you would meet when you're in trouble, and come to find out later he was more trouble than what you were getting into. And I think that's, like, fantastic storytelling. And I like the details, the little details too, like on the reins of the horse, these little parts that are hanging down. And our card, Fabled Passage. This is supposed to be one of the really good cards in the game. I like it. It's quite interesting because you have, like, this river, this pond, and you know where you're supposed to go. You're supposed to go into the light, even though I'm sure you could realistically just fly around the tree. There's lots of different colors in the foliage here, but these lily pads are flying, so there's definitely some magic going on here, and that's just like a little thing that they didn't have to include. And I like the white tree bark in the forest. Like, it makes it look like a bright place. And for white magic, I think this is a white magic card. No, it's a land card. But, white is a nice color here to make it look light and bright. Okay, Malevolent Noble. This guy looks pretty grim, holding back these purple spirits. The hands all look fine. Hands are difficult to draw. Lots of, like, little details, like on the door, the runes, and the wall, and some curtains. Kind of interested as to why he's doing this. Fling looks like there's the giant in the background, the mountains, so it gives us a sense of how high up we are, and just flinging this guy right into us. I think I've seen maybe some cards where they've, like, broken the border. Maybe this would have been a really nice card for them to do that with, to have his hands sort of go beyond the border. And his hands are covered in blood, which, I mean, and he, he's got a scary face. He's ready to attack. There's even this bird in the background to give you an idea of how high up we are. I think everything is sort of showing us height. Like, he is positioned above the mountains. He's clearly being thrown by a giant. There's a bird in the sky, and then here he is, and he's not really afraid of flying. And here's what we were talking about. In the first video, I said that there was I didn't like the one wolf we saw because it was stylized in a bad way. This one is stylized in a really good way. In fact, it really reminds me of, I think the artist's name is Eric Larson. I'm not sure. He was like the second or third person who really drew Venom in the Amazing Spider-Man comic books, and he hated Venom. So he was the one who actually is responsible for giving Venom a big, kind of ugly jaw with spiked teeth, and it turned out to be the most popular thing that happened, but he was trying to deliberately ruin the character. But this reminds me so much of that, and I think that this is a great way, a much, much better way than the old spiky one, of cartoonizing and emphasizing certain things about the character in a good way. Like, I would not want to get bit by this, like this, Venom dog. Fierce Witch Stalker, and he's clearly guarding the witch's house in the background. And you can see the twisted trees and stuff, so that's great. Wildwood Tracker, we looked at this one, and I didn't think much going on in it last time, and I still kind of don't. Inspiring Veteran. Yeah, this is a nice piece. I mean, the horse is very, very well done. Um, I can see the individual muscles in the horse's neck, and they all look like functionally, anatomically. I'm not a horse anatomy expert. I know human anatomy, but it looks to me like it's functional anatomy. The details, like the little bits onto the horse where the mouth goes, are really good. And the shiny, they each got their own highlight. Yeah, and I like the idea here of, it's called an inspiring veteran. You have this guy, he's clearly won something. There's a big parade, and he's sharing the limelight with this young child who he's clearly inspiring. It's really well done. And he looks happy, and the kid looks like he's riding into war, and he's, enjoying his imagination. I think that's great. Claim the Firstborn. Oh, that face is really realistic on this one. This is an evil card. You got this evil gremlin or goblin, I guess it is, going into the house clearly through the window in the back corner and stealing the baby out from under the mobile. And there are other babies in there too, which is also like really, really dark because this isn't the only one. The baby looks realistic. And he's just got this evil, like, Jack Nicholson smile on him. Like, yeah, like Jack Nicholson meets the Joker, which actually happened. So, Jack Nicholson Joker Goblin. It's really, really good. And lots of details too. Like I think that's a doll that got knocked over, which is like symbolic. This guy doesn't really care about the kids, and he's just stealing them. This is a repeat card. Whenever you see this, it means we already opened enough of that card. Didn't say please. I like this one too. The expression on this guy's face is really, really good. The sense of scale is great. She's closer to us, but she's still like about the size of his head. The posture is very loose. The detail in his costuming is really nice. His beard, his hat, everything. It's really good. The magic effects, where it's like bright blue, is quite nice. And just the fact that this little fairy can overwhelm him. And there's also a lot of stuff in the background. I mean, the background's not the focus, but the fact that you can still make out individual branches is really nice. Searing Barrage. We got a bunch of fiery missiles, I guess, being launched down into the mouth of this sea beast, maybe some kind of a sea worm or something, and we're looking directly into his mouth, and this guy, who looks like he's producing the fire, is going in there with him. It says Searing Barrage deals 5 damage to a target creature, so I guess that means like this little guy is the aggressor here. And the big guy is the one taking the damage. I love the way the water's churning. Not only is it churning because of the size of this beast here, but it's also, again, reminiscent of like boiling water, which is great because it's, a fire card with water on it, and you want it to be Han. Crystal Slipper. Yeah, it's beautiful. Very delicate looking. Maybe a little bit more opaque than I would like. Maybe just a little bit more transparent or lighter in color, possibly. Lots of details in the archway and stuff, like little cracks. Like, they don't need to put these cracks in there. I'm probably one of the few people who even appreciates looking at these little cracks in the archway. But someone bothered to put them there, and the pattern on the shoe, and the rose, and everything, and even the highlights on the rose. And also the background. The background is far away, so you're not going to see a lot of detail. But it's detailed enough that I can see mountains, plains, and rivers, and even little trees poking up out of some of these outcroppings. Very, very nice card. This one we took a look at, Moonlit Scavengers. It's okay. I mean, it's just a little bit drab in terms of the color scheme. And it's a blue card. I can kind of give that a pass on a dark card. But it's just kind of drab. in terms of color. Like the most, like here's a bad example of using vibrance. The most vibrant color here is this pale green, and it's just this person's cape. I mean, I would try to almost emphasize this net somehow by maybe making these things in the foreground more vibrant or something. I'm not a huge fan on this one. We looked at this one in the first video, and here's another one. I like the details, like the tiny little details in these wings, because they're so small. The expression on the face is very, very cute. There's some lighting thing blocking her eyes, and she has like a light source like her treasure here. There's also creativity to add the tail, and she's quite small. These are berries, small berries in the background, so she's like laying on some kind of a berry plant, like maybe a blueberry. I find the size of these pixies is a little bit inconsistent. In this situation, her head is only just a bit bigger than a blueberry. But in other situations, they've been as tall as 3 feet tall, or they've been, as big as somebody's head. So the size is a bit inconsistent, but they do appear to be different species, and I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. Jack Clackbridge Troll. So this is based off of Three Billy Goats Gruff. You got the 3 billy goats trying to cross the bridge, and then the troll underneath is sort of picking them away like he wants to eat them. Very, very good. The musculature of the troll is really good. I like his deformed head. I don't imagine he's smart. I think actually in the original Three Billy Goats Gruff, like, he gets progressively tricked until he gets to a goat that's just so big and strong that he can't handle him. But I think in this case, in this version of the story, like, he can easily get all these goats, and I think that's what the card says. The expression is really good too, especially the beady little eyes and mouth and the smile. There's a lot of really good character stuff here, and it makes a token creature a goat token creature. I like the details in the background. There's the house and stuff in the background, the boot. I wonder how that goat got that boot, but they're always eating things. And the goat looks pretty realistic. Like, that looks like a goat. Good sense of the anatomy on the goat, too. I wonder who well, I guess I can just read the card. Svetlin Velinov. I just wonder how they find people. It's like, I need somebody who just draws goats really, really well. So it's really, really cool. This one we've seen True Love's First Kiss. This is good. We're seeing like this Renaissance style dress. Very, very beautiful. She's very beautiful. She's well lit, and she's kissing this hero. I'm guessing he's a hero who's just been overtaken by plants. Since like True Love's First Kiss. And she's bringing him back. She's really nicely lit up by light. And I think it's just, it's kind of a touching moment where this guy she clearly cares about has fallen, and she wants to bring him back. He seems to be missing an arm. Unless it's sort of just being pushed down here. He seems to be missing an arm. I'm not sure if that's really what's going on here. Roving Keep. Artifact creature wall. It's just a moving house that floats around, I guess. There's some details in here. Actually, the thing I kind of noticed first about this is it does look like it has a face with this drawbridge and these 2 eyes, and then the hands, and it's sort of just all worked in there. And in this case, like, maybe not too much in the background, but like, I like how you're seeing different parts of the castle in different perspectives. Like, you're seeing like the ramparts and the walls, not only head on, but a bird's eye view of them here. And again, bird's eye view here. It's quite nice. Very creative. Must have taken a lot of thinking to plan that out. This one we've seen, Slaying Fire. So we have this hero. I think we've seen her before. And the costume is actually quite consistent from that first version. And she's using her weapon as a flame lance to slay this beast. And there's a really nice contrast between the dark of this dragon in the foreground, and his expression is incredibly painful, especially the way his tongue is twisting. And, the contrast, not only between this light of the fire and the dark of the dragon, but she's killing a dragon using fire. Usually it's the other way around. And this one we've already taken a look at. So, good. We're moving along quickly. We've taken a look at this and this. And this one we haven't seen yet. Smitten Swordmaster. I don't quite get the name. I mean, he's clearly a swordmaster. He clearly used his... I guess he's like posturing. He killed this thing. He's got blood on his sword. And he's just like, ladies? And the background is like really dark and drab. Like I said, it kind of works in these black cards. I do like it though when they do at least put some sort of twisted tree or something in the background. The detail of this creature is very interesting. Like, this looks otherworldly. I think that line here is possibly where its mouth is, or its mouth is underwater, but regardless of the case, it has a huge underbite, which is very, very creative. Hooked teeth, rays of fins, which aren't unrealistic. In fact, like in animals that have sort of like a fin or like, for example, like a dinosaur like Spinosaurus, the actual spines are actually projections from the individual vertebra. And it's not unrealistic, I think, to imagine a vertebrae that has 3 of these. So that looks fine to me. It looks good. I like the expression on his face, his armor. It's pretty good. I like the creativity of the creature most of all. Foreboding Fruit. This is another fantastic example of using vibrance to make something show up. Everything is basically, drab or earth tones except for the fruit right here in the middle. And not only did they use vibrance to make it stand out, they also used brightness to make it stand out, because the brightest part of this fruit is right next to the darkest shadow of this guy. And, and there's just lots of stuff going on here. You have this crow here, which helps symbolize evil. And, like, you don't trust this fruit at all, because he's the one offering it to you, and he is evil, and it looks good. Almost it looks too good. So it's foreboding, and it's very, very good. This is one of my favorite cards I think I've seen so far. Clockwork Servant. This is Clocksworth from Beauty and the Beast. It's a nice reimagining of him. It looks like he has a bit of a face going on. And it looks like you turn the key and he just does some work for you. And there's good darkness and lightness here too, more contrast. Dark shadows here, bright light on the stone. It almost looks like somebody opened the door and sees this dude here on the floor, and he's just like, huh? I'm just cleaning the floors. And she's, whoever it is, I'm guessing it's Belle, is just like, what is this thing? Just very, very nice. Really nice reimagining of Clocksworth, I think. Falmire Knight. Zombie Knight. He's got, definitely zombie creature. The tree back here is super, super creepy. Here's a good thing with trees. Notice not all the branches have to go up, right? Some of the branches can go down, whether because they're dying or because they're being weighed on. I think that's really important, especially for creating trees, to keep in mind that branches can go up and down. So you have lots of directions. What makes this a creepier tree is just the amount of twist in the branches. Now, when you're doing trees, you should have some kind of a twist in there. It shouldn't be perfectly straight, but this is incredibly crooked. That's a good creepy tree. And Fervent Champion. I know a bit about this card. This card is, this guy here was the champion, there it says 2018 World Champion, Javier Dominguez, and I think he had a hand in designing the card. So that's his face riding the horse. He's got his sword, which almost looks a bit like a trophy. And it's really nice that they worked him into the game. The musculature of this horse looks quite good. I can see what would be the horse equivalent of the deltoid muscle, with really developed forearm muscles. Details are quite nice on the horse. Yeah, I like it. And all the little details too here on like the sort of the horse's clothing. If anyone knows what horse's clothing is called, please tell me. We got 5 more to go. Alright, we looked at it. This was that So Tiny card I told you guys about. I like this one a lot. One of my favorite ones too. And you got nice bright red here. Lonesome Unicorn. That's a pretty unicorn. Nice weeping tree. There's a friend coming to see it. I guess the unicorn is sad or something, but somebody's coming to say hi. These rocks are very nicely done. Lots of detail and texture in them. Lots of tree roots here coming down. See, like, it's little details that really sort of make the art great. And the whole unicorn is super pretty. Like, it has beautiful hair, beautiful long hair that just goes in and dips into the water here and over here. And it's so bright and so white. And actually, that's really kind of a great thing that they were able to accomplish here. And I think what makes it work here is the darker color here, but it's light. It's a light dark color, and it makes the horse look much whiter, because our eyes, the way our eyes work is our eyes are basically comparing things all the time. And if this was a super light color, this horse wouldn't look nearly as white as it is. I think if it was super dark, it would also look very white, but I think it almost might be too obvious it's tricking your eyes. And we also have some dark stuff down here, which I think is also helping evaluate this horse to be very bright. And then, of course, you know, most of the colors are subdued as well, except for the greens start to get a little more vibrant up here. This one we took a look at. These ones are new. Skull Knocker Ogre. He's knocking in through a library. It looks like these are all these different books out here. Huge musculature. He's got the same kind of face as the Billy Goat's Gruff Troll. Just knocking through. He's very dark and menacing. You can see the light peering through the hole that he created. It's quite nice. Mysterious Pathfinder. Yeah, just there's a good story here. Like, you can see that this Mysterious Pathfinder character as a fairy with very interesting wings again. These ones almost just look like birds' feathers. With the human figure, it's very proportionate, which is very nice. He's clearly in the foreground, and he's lighting these lights, and you can follow the lights back, which is good, you know, laying out a nice path for our eyes to follow, with lots of twisty, creepy trees. So it's almost like this is the good guy leading this person through. And I think there's a third guy back there too. So maybe the idea is that this is a good guy, this guy's helping out, but the bad guy can also follow the path maybe. And then Feasting Troll King. We have a troll here. His mouth is wide open. He's got one really big arm down here holding a hot pot of something. His other arm is down here, and there's something going on across here. It's a bit busy. It's a bit hard to see, especially on the computer screen. I think if I had the real card in my hand, it might be a little bit easier to interpret what I'm seeing. It's okay. I wish I could see it a little bit more clearly. The mouth is obviously quite the focal point here, but I can't see too much of what I'm supposed to be looking at. Okay, we talked about this one, we talked about this one, we talked about this one, this one, this one, this one, and, well, we talked about all these. And Castle Garenbrig. Basically, this looks like Pride Rock. I mean, that's not really a Brothers Grimm thing, but I think whoever did this must have drew inspiration from Pride Rock and Stonehenge. You have all these henges nearby, and the details and the stonework is very nice. This sky is very beautiful. It's a bright, beautiful day. I like this cloud here and these clouds up here. So many very nice clouds. You can see for miles and miles and miles. You know, you have different planes. When I'm doing my painting, I always talk about different planes. Well, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different planes that you can clearly see. And that's what helps you see for miles and miles and miles. You know, and also like how big this is in comparison to how big that is. And I like the bright, beautiful sky. You do have a little bit of dark stuff here and here and here, which helps make this look brighter. This is very well done. One of my favorite cards. Super beautiful landscape. Alright, we talked about this one. We talked about Brock Lesnar. Outflank. So we have a bunch of clearly white characters attacking. Well, I was going to say, looked like that thing that the dark guy had killed. But I guess this is a different creature. It doesn't have that same fin. And you know, the trees are there. I like the contrast between the dark creature and the light fighters. The detailing on the horses is pretty good. But I think on this close-up horse, I think just a little bit of shading to indicate some of the muscle of the horse's neck would have been really good, because I mean this horse is going to be working hard. You would see some flexion in the neck muscles, and I think that they should include that. Also, this one might be too far away to really justify it, but maybe some musculature in the leg. This one we talked about. Reaper of the Night. It's a big card. 7 energy. You got the Grim Reaper, looking as grim and reapery as always, with this skull monster behind him with multiple skulls and faces. It's quite horrific, especially the shape of this skull in the front of it. Yeah, it's really good. There's not much going on in terms of a background. You can just see a few thorns. Maybe a little bit more going on. Maybe darken the background just a little bit, because you could darken the background because the skull creature is quite light. And you could do something. Maybe put like a moon. Yeah, put a moon right above. I can't get to it without losing the card. Right above the multiple-headed monster. And then darken things off so his wings are framing the moon. That would be very beautiful to see something like that. I like this guy again. We saw him. Kenneran's Transformation is a beautiful elk with some creative patterning on it. The antlers are quite standard. I probably would have liked something a little bit more imaginative, like that one we've seen earlier, which was like an elk Pegasus. But the soft rocks with moss growing on them, little tiny flowers here and there. I'm going to start adding a little more flowers in some of my paintings. And, trees, just a beautiful, majestic sight. Good sense of scale, and you can follow the waterfall coming down and down and down. And, it sort of gets brighter and more faded out further away. It's quite nice. Rare card, Lurker of the Loch. Yeah, it's a good one. We have this creature, merfolk wizard. It says, lurking in the loch. I wonder if it has not anything to do with that other card we've seen, where the guy was getting pulled in. And we got some lily pads here, and they're very close up. They're very detailed. We can see her body under the water, but we're getting the distortion effect of the water, and her hair is sort of spreading out in the water too as well. I'm not really sure what this hairline is doing here. It almost looks like it's floating above the water rather than on it. I think it should be angling a little bit more lower, and possibly just getting a bit of a small water line or something on it, just to really help us understand that it's in the water and not floating up out of the water, unless it's meant to be. Alright, we got 2 more packs left. This one we've seen, Flutterfox. This is an interesting one. I haven't liked the other fox ones too much, but this one is a little bit more detailed. You can tell that the fox has wings on its feet now. That's obviously not going to help it fly in real life, but sure, why not? And you got some floating stones here, and you got the same waterfall in the background that was with that stag we just saw. And the angling of the fox here really does make it sort of look like he's going fast. So he's a fast flyer. We've seen this one. And the prized griffin. I like it. It's nice feathers. He has a person in his nest. I really do like how they accomplish these really nice white colors. I might have to take a few scans of some of these pictures and analyze them. Just try to figure out how they're accomplishing these really nice white angelic colors, because some of these are quite nice. I think it has something to do with like cold colors, warm colors, and then white. I think that has a lot to do with it. Anyway, this one looks really nice. I think there's I need a little bit more help to understand where exactly this nest is, but there's lots of details. There's even a wheel in this nest. So it looks like it's made out of a wagon. Maybe, is it a nest, or is it just a destroyed wagon and he's trying to save the person? I think it's a nest. I think it's just a nest, and it's been made out of things like wagons and stuff that the griffin has attacked. Shine Chaser. We have a fairy who is using the keys to open something. And again, like we've seen this before with the fairy cards, using like, sewing baubles as armor, which I think is really imaginative. This one's quite ghostly, but this is a really good example of contrast again. Like you have a super kind of white, light colored pixie with a near perfect black background. It's really good. And actually the texturing of this metal is really good. Not only is it shiny, but they've managed to make it look shiny and old, by adding pitting and adding brown to it, because obviously, as metal gets older, it does tend to rust or oxidize, and it tends to, pick up some other colors, like, if it's iron, like red, or if it's copper, like a green or a blue tinge to it. I think the texture is very good on this key, and I think because the texturing on the key is very detailed, the focal point really is supposed to be the key and then the fairy, which is a little bit more blended out, especially in the edges. The fairy doesn't have a crisp edge, but the key does. And this one, Once Upon a Time, one of the better cards, I think. Super detailed floral, flora in this one. You have like roots and everything, different kinds of things. You have ferns in various stages, from like being nearly opened to being as tight as being fiddleheads. This guy, this adventurer, is beginning his adventure, going into what is clearly darker. There's some fireflies, which I like these fireflies. I'm really starting to find out with myself as an artist, I do like mysterious lights quite a bit. And, there's this twisty thing here, the twisty branch. And I like how it goes from light to the beginning of the story to like sort of into the story gets darker, like how the story goes. It starts off everything, once upon a time everything was great, and then some crazy stuff happened and everyone was sad. And there's really good detail too in his costuming. Everything from the folds in his boots, the wrinkles in his boots, which are quite small, but someone bothered to do them. The cave is very sort of Victorian in sort of the way, Renaissance, sort of in the way like it's folded and is gilded with gold. And he's the White Knight. He's got the golden helmet and things like that. And it looks like he's got a few awards or something on him, and he's going into the wilds. And this is our last pack. I hope there's more than just one new card here for us. I hope it's a real good one, too. Alright, we've seen it. Okay, Queen of Ice. We haven't seen her yet, so she's standing very regal, very upright. Like I said, straight posture will make somebody look regal. and she has her ice wand. I think this is obviously in reference to Frozen, but I'm not sure if there's a Grimm fairy tale that's based on that. Someone let me know if there's a real Grimm fairy tale based off of Frozen. That would be really cool to know. The Wicked Guardian, so like Wicked Witch kind of thing. This looks like your in-law. Kind of looks like Maleficent is what she's based off of. You know, the Wicked Witch. Good detail in the arm. Look at this. A lot of older people, because of the way their skin is, you actually tend to see some of the musculature quite well. You can see very good separation of the flexors, like this muscle group here and here. The way she's holding that dog and the expression on her face, I like that. Super, super detailed. Here's obviously the character that she's the guardian of. So again, like this is sort of how your eye is going. You're looking at her, you're looking at her dog. She cares more about this dog clearly than this girl, and there's the details throughout the whole thing. Super, super detailed background. Everything from like, you know, extra adornments onto the wood that's holding up the ceiling, to, you know, folds into the curtains, patterns and details on the vases and things on the wall. It's very, very well done, and the most details really in her costuming. You know, little things etched into her hat. Her expression on her face is really good. You can see her eyebrows are done, so she's like kind of this old woman who cares more about her looks and her wealth and her dog more than, you know, I guess what would be like her stepdaughter or something. So I think this is Cinderella. When Wicked Guardian enters the battlefield, you may have it deal 2 damage to another creature you control. If you do draw a card. So she has to hit your own card, which is kind of interesting. And the flavor text is, some are born to greatness, you are born to scrub greatness's floors. I cannot wait to use that line to somebody at some point in my life. Alright. Resolute Rider. Yeah, this is another one of those ones where we got like a hero going through the wilds, and then you start to see the thorns blossoming the roses which have gone away. Again, like the accent color here is red. I think in the previous ones that we saw that were like this, the accent color was purple. But yeah, just sort of spreading through using, looks like the sword has magic, and it's sort of, is it sucking up the flowers or is it laying them down? I think maybe the story is like these dark guys are the ones that are ruining the rose bushes. Because it looks like he's doing this. Gains lifelink until the end of the turn. Yeah, it sounds to me like they're the ones doing it because they get lifelink, which means like they take health away. So maybe these dark human characters are the ones that are doing it. And the last card is Midnight Clock. Not much going on with this one to talk about too much, really. I mean, we're looking up, so we're looking up into a sky. You know, and there are clouds there and there are stars, but there's not much that they can do with a nighttime sky, really. I suppose that's not true. There are lots of beautiful nighttime skies, but the focus is on these clock towers, and they're nice. They're a bit geometrical, a little bit almost computer generated for my taste, but you know, it's not too bad. It's a very good card to have if you're playing the game, from what I understand. So anyway, that was opening 25 booster packs in Magic Arena for the Eldraine expansion. If you like the video, if you like art, check out some of my other videos. And if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. It definitely helps things out. Yeah, I hope that you enjoy playing this game. It's free to play, and I hope you you know, take a look at a few things. Also, I should probably mention this is not a sponsored video, and I probably should have mentioned that in the last one. Not a sponsored video. I'm doing it because I like the game, and I like the art. Alright, I'm going to start playing this game now. Goodbye.